It was supposed to be just another routine session in the softly lit treatment room of the wellness center where I'd worked for 8 years. The lavender oil hung thick in the air, the gentle rain sounds played from hidden speakers, and Elena lay face down on my table, her long dark hair spilling over the edge like a curtain hiding secrets. My hands moved with practiced care across the tight muscles of her upper back, chasing the chronic knots that had refused to loosen for months. Then her fingers suddenly found mine, warm, trembling, insistent. She guided my palm lower, right along the curve of her spine where the pain lived deepest, and in a voice that cracked like fragile glass she whispered, "Right there." My heart slammed against my ribs. I froze, every professional boundary I'd ever sworn to uphold threatening to dissolve in that single electric second. But what happened in the next breath changed both our lives forever, and if I told you the truth about the choice I faced right then, you might not believe a simple massage could lead to something so raw, so dangerous, and so beautifully healing. My name is Alex, and for most of my adult life I had believed touch was medicine, nothing more, nothing less. I became a massage therapist after watching my mother suffer through years of untreated fibromyalgia, her body a map of silent screams no doctor seemed to hear. I trained relentlessly, studied anatomy, energy work, even basic psychology, because I wanted to be the one who could finally listen when the pain refused to speak in words. The center where I worked was tucked into a quiet corner of the city, the kind of place where stressed executives and exhausted parents came seeking relief. I prided myself on staying detached, professional, a safe harbor. Clients came, they breathed, they left lighter. End of story. Until Elena walked through the door 6 months earlier, carrying a grief so heavy it seemed to bend the air around her. She had booked the appointment online at 2 a.m., the note in the system simply reading, "Chronic shoulder and lower back pain, please help." When she arrived for that first session, I almost didn't recognize the woman from the tiny profile picture. She was 34, with warm olive skin, eyes the color of storm clouds after rain, and a quiet grace that made the room feel smaller. But there was a hollow look behind her smile, the kind you see in people who have smiled through funerals. "Hi," she said, voice soft as she extended her hand. "I'm Elena. I think my body is falling apart faster than I can hold it together." I smiled the way I always did, reassuring, neutral, and led her to the room. She changed behind the screen, slipped under the sheet, and the session began like any other, warm oil, slow effleurage strokes, checking pressure. "Too much?" I asked. "No," she whispered. "Just, keep going." By the end of that hour she hadn't said another word, but when she sat up, her eyes were wet. She paid in cash, thanked me, and left. I told myself it was nothing. Clients cried sometimes. It was part of the job. The second session came 2 weeks later. This time she arrived early, hair still damp from a shower, wearing a simple black sweater that hung loose on her frame like she had lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. As I worked her shoulders, she started talking, halting at first, then in a rush. "My husband, Daniel, he died 8 months ago. Rock climbing. One slip. That's all it took." Her voice broke on the word, slip, and I felt the muscle under my palm seize like it was reliving the fall with him. I kept my hands moving, steady, but inside something shifted. I had lost my own father young, to a heart attack no one saw coming, so I knew the shape of sudden absence. "I'm so sorry," I said quietly. She didn't answer right away. Instead she breathed through the pain as I found a trigger point that made her gasp. "It's okay," she finally murmured. "No one ever knows what to say. They just disappear. But this, your hands, they make me feel like I'm still here." That was the first crack in the wall I had built between therapist and client. I didn't cross it. Not yet. But I started remembering her name without checking the chart. I started wondering what her laugh sounded like before grief stole it. By the 4th session we had a rhythm. She came every 10 days like clockwork. The pain was real, sciatica flaring from months of sleeping on the couch because the bed still smelled like him, but it was laced with something deeper. Grief lived in her body like a second skeleton. She told me how Daniel used to rub her feet after long days at the hospital where she worked as a pediatric nurse. How they had been trying for a baby when he died. How she still set 2 plates at dinner out of habit and then cried into the sink. I listened without fixing, because that's what good touch requires, presence, not solutions. In return I shared small pieces of myself, the burnout I felt after back-to-back 12-hour days, the way my last relationship ended because I gave everything to my clients and nothing to the woman waiting at home. "You carry everyone's pain," she said once, turning her head on the cradle so her eyes met mine. "Does anyone ever carry yours?" The question hung between us like steam from the hot stones I sometimes used. I didn't answer. I couldn't. But that night, after she left, I sat in the empty room with the lights off and felt the weight of every knot I'd ever loosened pressing back on my own chest. The sessions deepened. She started arriving with small gifts, a packet of the herbal tea she swore helped her sleep, a playlist of piano music she thought I might like for the room. I told myself it was gratitude, nothing more. Then came the evening everything tilted. It was our 8th session. The city outside was caught in an early winter storm, rain lashing the windows like it wanted inside. Elena was unusually quiet, her breathing shallow. I had worked up to her lower back, the place where she stored the worst of the guilt, if I hadn't encouraged him to take that last route, when her hands suddenly found mine. Fingers laced tight. She pulled gently, insistently, guiding me exactly where the deepest ache lived, just above the dimples of her lower spine. "Right there," she whispered again, voice thick with something that wasn't only pain. Her body arched ever so slightly under my touch. The air between us thickened. I felt her pulse racing where our skin met. For one suspended heartbeat I forgot the code of ethics framed on the wall, forgot the risk to my license, forgot everything except the woman who had trusted me with her broken places and was now trusting me with something far more dangerous, her desire to feel alive again. My hands trembled. I wanted to lean down, press my forehead to hers, tell her she wasn't alone anymore. But before I could speak, a sharp knock rattled the door, my colleague reminding me the center was closing early because of the storm. Elena's hand slipped away. She sat up slowly, sheet clutched to her chest, eyes wide with the same stunned realization I felt. I should go," she said, voice shaking. She dressed in silence, paid, and left without looking back. I stood there staring at the empty table, heart hammering, wondering if I had just lost the one client who had started to feel like home. 3 weeks passed with no word. No booking. No message. I checked the schedule obsessively, replaying that whisper in my head until it haunted my dreams. Had I misread everything? Had I crossed a line without meaning to? The center felt emptier without her. I threw myself into other clients, but their stories blurred. My own body started to ache in sympathy, tight shoulders, restless nights. I even considered calling her, but that would have shattered every professional rule left between us. Then, on a gray Thursday afternoon, the front desk buzzed my room. "Elena's here. No appointment. She says it's urgent." My stomach dropped. When she walked in, she looked different, paler, eyes rimmed red, but there was a new fire in them too. "I couldn't stay away," she said before I could speak. The pain came back worse. "Doctors say it's mostly in my head now, stress, grief, all of it. But it's not just the pain, Alex. It's that I haven't stopped thinking about your hands, about you." The second cliffhanger hit me like a wave. She was here, raw and honest, but outside the door her sister waited in the car, the same sister who had warned her against getting attached to the massage guy, and who now threatened to call the center's owner if Elena didn't stop seeing me. We had minutes before the sister stormed in. Elena's hand reached for mine, not as a client this time, but as a woman standing on the edge of everything she feared and everything she wanted. Tell me I'm not crazy for feeling this, she whispered. I didn't have an answer. Not yet. All I knew was that if we took one more step, there was no going back. We talked for 40 minutes in that room, voices low, the storm outside mirroring the one inside us. She poured out the rest of her story, the nights she drove to the climbing gym just to sit in the parking lot and scream, the way her patients at the hospital looked at her with pity now instead of respect, the fear that she would never let herself be touched again without remembering what she had lost. I told her about the letter I had written to my ex the week before, never sent, admitting that I had used my work as armor against real intimacy. We weren't therapist and client anymore. We were two people who had both been carrying too much for too long and had finally found someone willing to help shoulder the load. But the challenge was real. I could lose my job, my entire career, if anyone found out. She could lose the fragile stability she had clawed back for her daughter, a bright 8-year-old who still asked when Daddy was coming home from the mountains. That night I made the hardest decision of my life. I told the center owner I needed to step away from Elena's care effective immediately, citing personal reasons. I referred her to a colleague I trusted completely. It felt like ripping out a piece of myself, but it was the only way to do this right. The weeks that followed tested every resolution we had. We met outside the center, coffee shops at first, then long walks along the river when the weather turned kind. Touch was careful, almost reverent. A hand on her lower back when she tensed up, fingers brushing mine across the table. She still had bad days, the pain would flare, memories would ambush her, and she would pull away, terrified of burdening me. That was our third and final cliffhanger. One rainy evening she showed up at my apartment door shaking, telling me the doctors wanted to run more tests because the sciatica had worsened and she was scared it meant something sinister. I can't drag you into this, she said, tears streaming. You've already given me so much. I should let you go before I break you too. I pulled her inside, wrapped her in my arms, and held her while she sobbed against my chest. For the first time I wasn't the therapist. I was simply the man who loved her, flaws, grief, unpredictable pain and all. We faced the tests together. They came back clear. Her body had been screaming what her heart already knew. She needed to stop running from the loss and start building something new on the other side of it. Resolution came slowly, the way true healing does. I left the center entirely a month later, opening my own small studio focused on trauma-informed bodywork. Elena returned to nursing part-time, bringing the same gentle strength she had found in our sessions to the children who needed her most. We told her daughter the truth in small, age-appropriate pieces, that sometimes grown-ups find new friends who help them smile again. The little girl's wary eyes softened the first time she saw me help her mother stretch her back without pain. We still have hard days. Grief doesn't vanish, it just learns to share the room. But now when Elena whispers, right there, it's in the quiet of our shared bed, my hands tracing the same paths that once mapped only sorrow, now mapping joy as well. We laugh more than we cry. We touch without fear. And every time I watch her dance in the kitchen with her daughter to the piano playlist she once gave me, I remember that the human body is capable of miracles when it is met with kindness, patience, and love that refuses to look away. This story isn't just mine and Elena's. It's a reminder that the deepest wounds are often the ones we carry in silence, and that healing begins the moment we let someone else lay hands on them, literally and figuratively. In a world that teaches us to tough it out alone, true courage is allowing yourself to be seen, to be touched, to be helped. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the doorway to the kind of connection that can rewrite your entire life. If you're carrying pain right now, physical, emotional, or both, know that you don't have to carry it forever. Reach out. Whisper, right there, to someone safe. The right hands will find you, and they will help you stand taller than you ever thought possible. If this story touched your heart like it did mine, do me a favor and give it a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that celebrate the human connection. Thank you.